Teri Batts, welcome to the show.
What, Brent? What are you doing?
Hey, I'm so happy that you joined me. You're like my favorite person that runs my favorite game show, and so
Well,
uh, I'm so excited to talk to you.
well, you're getting a prime opportunity because I don't do this very often. So
I know you
here's
should
to you.
more though. You got such great opinions, man. So I wanted to ask. Actually, first, before I jump into that, I want you to introduce yourself to people that maybe like the three people in the world and that follow me may not know who you are. Give them a quick overview.
I'm just Terry. It's kind of simple. I'm who you see online. I'm not any different than that. I stay pretty true to myself, and most of the time, but I just I'm just out there trying my best to get people to look at liberty a little bit in a little bit of a different way. That's all.
Got got it. That's cool. So Liberty Advocate. That's a pretty good TLDR
Yeah.
for
I,
Terry.
I'm a writer, as well. So I do a little bit of everything.
So walk me through like how like your political arc. I think everybody doesn't just go from A to Z. It seems like there's some intermediate steps along the way if you're in the Liberty sphere. So maybe talk me through where you started and kind of like some permutations of Terry before you got to where you're at and kind of describe where you're at now.
Wow. Okay, I would have to say my first wake up call, I guess you would call it, was 9/11. And I'm
Mm.
not talking about the conspiracy theories or anything like that. I'm talking about the actual act. Um, it floored me that I did not know who Al Qaeda was. And I was so ashamed of myself and that this was happening in the United States, regardless of how, what, or when, or where, it didn't matter. And that I had no idea that these things were going on in the world. So that was kind of my first decision to at least understand or know what was going on. And then it just kind of grew from there. I actually worked in the government when I was young. And at the time, it was the fastest growing city in the state of Florida. I was the finance director and took care of, I wrote bills. I fired people. I wrote budgets. I cut budgets. I did all of the things that people pretty much dislike or hate, whichever. And I've done all of those, as a matter of fact. And then I was scouted from there because of project management skills to go to work for a corporation. And that was at the time called Vistana Resorts. And that I was the director of engineering worldwide. So I went in and put together plans and projects to run both their operations and their renovation and new construction projects. Uh, and then my husband got sick and I quit everything and uh, took care of him for 15 years and uh, did. I was taking a walk one day and somebody asked me if I wanted to go to work for the school system. I said yes. And then I ended up doing that for 20 years. And if you're in government, corporate, and then the school system, I've pretty much hit every area of the government there is to hit at one time or another in my life. And I know how bad it can be.
Yeah, for sure. If you've seen it on the inside, you realize what kind of beast it is. So, well, that's cool. That's cool. So, from 9/11, like, what was your initial entry? Like, you're like, okay, this shook me to my core. I've got to figure out what's going on. Like, what was the first stop there, politically? Like, where was your head at? Like, because that was a weird time to be alive. I think a lot of people that woke a bunch of people up, and I think a lot
Yeah,
of
it did.
people
Yeah.
maybe got suckered into some stuff that they regretted later. I wonder if you're in that same boat.
I was mostly, I mostly paid attention to what was going on right around me. So I'll say locally. But that made me look at the world in an entirely different way. And the more I looked at it, the more disgusted I got. Because I'm not a big, I believe in protecting the country and and myself, but I don't I realized I never knew it, but I realized that I really didn't think we should be all up in everybody's business. I just, what's the point? And then all of the stuff that I went through with my husband being sick had a lot to do with my transitioning into things, and that was for medical reasons and what could and could not be done. And we had to go to
Mm,
court twice. After Obamacare, we had to go to court two times to prove that his life was worth something. and get that
Ugh.
taken care of. So once was a simple battery replacement on a pacemaker. So something that simple. And the second one I still don't understand, but that was a second quadruple bypass. And both that was experimental. And both times we had to go to court and prove that it was a worthy treatment. So that kind of got me going. And then the whole thing with COVID just freaking blew my mind. And that's when I realized I wasn't the same person that I used to be at all, and that I really did not like a lot of things that were going on in the world. So I became I don't want to say an angry person. Well, I was angry. Let me take that back. I wasn't angry. I was furious.
Mm.
And then it became important to me more than anything to do all I could to educate people and show people how that there are ways to do things, without being hateful and ugly about it, but you have to make change somehow, some way. You can't just sit back. You have to go do what you want to do, and you can't just sit back and keep your mouth shut anymore. So that's what I did.
Yeah, it seems like it's a difficult, at least it is for me, a difficult line to toe of being vocal, being critical of the people and policies and actions that deserve criticism without
Yes.
becoming spiteful and angry and over the top and bitter and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's a struggle for everybody, I think, and I think that's just part of being human. I don't
Yes.
claim to have it figured out. I'm still, as you know, I'm still working through it. I'm trying not to be a
But you're
dick on the
doing
internet.
good. You're
I'm
doing good.
trying. I'm trying so
You're
hard,
doing
Terry.
good.
Yeah, because I mean, if we're repellent to people, they're not going to look at you and be like, "Oh, your ideas are great. I should really consider, reconsider my thoughts on liberty. Maybe we should consider leaving people alone and letting the free market work and non-interventionism. Maybe these are good ideas, but if we're all assholes to every like you're not.
To be 100% honest, I actually learned a lot of that from Free and from working on the show. He's a fantastic teacher he's non-judgmental as to where you are, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
and doesn't mind explaining things to you the way that you need to have them explained. And working on township liberation with him was a big deal for me, and that was a lot of localism. That was with Free and Mike Decentralized, and I learned a lot from both of them. So I've actually learned a lot of what I know now from the show, and hopefully I'm able to teach people that I have every right to be probably one of the most angry people on the planet, but that's not going to get me anywhere, and it's not going to have anybody else listen to what I have to say. If I judge people for where they are, then I'm judging myself for where I was. And
Yeah.
that's, you know, I'm pretty hard on myself, so I don't need any more judgment.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't think it's necessarily judgment. I mean, I know some people do. There's that
Yeah, they
libertarian
do.
purity tests and teams. Like, I'm on this team, I'm on
Yes.
minarchist team, and I'm on this team. And I'm like, I get all that sort of thing. So there is some of that judgment. I guess for me, I'm a philosopher first and foremost. That's where liberty sort of sprang from in me, as I started from a philosophical base, which led me to the non-aggression principle, universal ethics, and so that was my starting point. And sometimes, I like to be a little bit provocative and poke people.
Yeah.
Sometimes it goes over better than others, but it also, it works for certain people and it doesn't work for others. And so I've been trying to moderate the way I do it and try to poke people less, or a
It's
little bit
very,
more careful in the way in the way in which I poke.
I'm watching you.
I'm trying so hard, Terry. I'm trying. And it's hard because and it's not like with the people. I think I've been very good with people in the liberty movement most of the time. Some people still annoy me, and I not as careful as I should be. But with the people that
Hey,
are not
there's a
in the
mute
movement.
button. There's a let me tell you, big secret. There's there's a mute button, and you can even mute yourself out of the conversation. Yep.
Yeah, I probably should at some point. But some of it is not necessarily. It's not even participating in the conversation to participate in the conversation. Sometimes it's just to get my thoughts on record. And you probably see me. I'll go back 2 years and I'll quote tweet myself. And it's like, hey, like I'm trying to get people to realize, like, I see something here. Like I'm not dumb. I'm seeing something here very clearly, and I'm trying to prove a point. And like I'll put it on the record. Maybe I'll go back to it in 2 years. So sometimes it's not even about the argument in the moment. It's about talking about, like I said, principles. I want to get people. I want to nudge people. Like, how did I know this 2.5 years ago? Like before Donald Trump was elected, why was I saying like this is going to be an absolute disaster? I
I
want to
don't
get
know.
people to. I want to get people to think.
You see my profile picture, it's like, people, please think. Please. Hey, I
Yeah.
didn't always think. So,
Well, because it's hard. Oh my gosh, that's the thing I love about philosophy. Is you get into philosophy, you realize that critical thought, and logic, and like being, working from sound first principles, like that's really, really hard to do, and that's why I think people default to teams. It's like I can have a thought leader. If I'm on the Republican side, I can just look to Jack Posobiec, or I can look to whoever the influencer is to get my opinions, and then I can regurgitate those arguments. It's way easier to do that than actually think through things, which is, like, and it's understandable. There's people that are very busy. They have busy lives and they don't have time to think about these things. But boy, the way the nation's going right now, it feels like you don't really have that luxury anymore. Like it feels like we're going to have to do something here. People are going to have to wake up. You're going to have to engage somehow and get sort of up to speed. You have to figure out who Al Qaeda is right now. This is like really important. We got to get some foundation laid here,
yeah.
because it's coming, and it's going to be really, really bad. I'm not sure people realize the extent to which it's going to go very, very badly for us.
Even if it's not to the extent of it, it's the possibility of it happening. You prep for a hurricane. You can prep 3, 4, 5 days out. You don't even know where the thing's actually going yet, but people prep for it 4 or 5 days out regardless. And it's kind of the same principle for the country right now. Even if they don't think it's going to happen tomorrow or the next day, or 5 days or whenever, they need to realize that it's a possibility, that the government and the economy tanking is a huge possibility. And it's, you're one that says it's going to happen, and I don't know what day, but it's going to happen. And I'm one that says, I'm more along the lines of, my God, I hope that doesn't happen. Just that doesn't mean I'm not going to prep. That doesn't mean I didn't hope for the hurricane to go north instead of east. It just means that you got to be ready. That's
Yeah, my
just the way it
problem
is.
my problem is I'm an engineer and I'm really good at math. And the $39 trillion in debt,
What?
understanding monetary
What
policy,
that?
like, yeah, and everyone's just like, this is fine, and we're seeing, if you're paying attention to things, you're watching the bond market start to break, and you're starting to see a whole bunch of red flags in the economy, and like it's like, boy, this it's not if, it's when. I don't know exactly when it's going to
And
happen, but when it does, it's going to be bad.
the
People aren't
the
ready.
other thing the other thing people need to do is they need to understand that they're not, like, the economy's not my thing. It's not my thing. Yes, I have degrees. I worked in finance and budgeting and all that kind of stuff, but the actual overall economy for the country, and putting all those bits and pieces together, I don't, that's not me. That's not my thing. And so I depend on other people that I trust to say, that's it, Terry, it's done deal. So it, I know to do that because people need to respect what others know. We're not all meant to take on everything ourselves. Having a friend that knows about that kind of stuff is a great thing. Having a friend that knows about how Congress works is a great thing. You have to you're always going to have friends. You called it a team, and maybe it is a team concept in some ways, but it's still a group of people working together, no matter how small the group is.
Yeah. When I said team, I meant more like it's almost like a cult. It's like where it's like there's a
You're talking
leader.
about MAGA. You're talking about MAGA.
Big time.
I'll say it. Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
say
yeah,
that.
that's a weird cult, man. Like I've seen. Yeah, let's talk about this. I gotta ask you, Terry, what the hell happened to the Republican Party? I don't
Well,
recognize this anymore.
I don't either, and I am a registered Republican. I can and do change when I need to and want to. Uh, But in the state of Florida, you can't vote in the primaries unless you are registered in the whatever party. So I would like to and not be. Honestly, I don't recognize it myself. I think that the Republican Party is no different than the Democrat Party anymore.
I think they
Or
might be
let's cut.
worse, Terry. I
They
think they
might
might be
be.
worse.
They might be, and it's a real toss-up on who can lie better. But I think it's, based on the day of the week, who's going to tell the most lies. But the government itself has gone to crap, so it's really not surprising that the two primary parties, they've just all joined in to be one, and they're not even though they talk a good game, their voting and their actions say something completely different, totally different.
Yeah, and it's weird because I've always sort of viewed them as like pro wrestling. There's like there's one guy in the back, Vince McMahon, that runs the whole show, and you roll out the good guys and the heels to fight with each other, and you got to pick which side you're on. Um, but it's the marketing is weird. Like the Republicans, I grew up in the '80s, with Ronald Reagan, and I used to know what a conservative was. They're like, we want limited government, and we want strong gun rights, and they have these list of things that you could easily identify somebody as a conservative with. And now it's like well, we're pro pedophilia. We're totally cool with that. We're totally cool with spending infinite money and borrowing and infinite wars. And the Republicans are just kind of cool with this. And I'm like, what is a Republican anymore? Like, I don't even know. It's just populism. It's like whatever the leader, the orange man, says, that's what we're going with today. And there's no principles, there's no underlying foundation to this whole thing. It's just twisting in the wind from day to day, which is just a wild thing to observe.
It is very wild to observe, and I see a lot of it online, especially, and I also hear it out in public where it's just okay, and I also hear I don't want to know anymore. I have a lot of friends who say I just don't even want to know. Just forget the whole stinking thing. What happens happens. I have no control, and a lot of people have given up. And as far as the Republican Party goes, they don't live by what their original intent was, nor do they live by, let's just change it all the way to Reagan. They were supposed to be this party of small government. If that was the case, on day 41 of the last shutdown, they could have shut down a good 60% of the US government based on all of the emails and documents they filed ahead of time, which would have been 100% legal. Did that happen? No.
They
How
don't
many
want it.
days were they down? Nope, they were down 43 days. They could have done it on day 41. And I don't know, you watch my post, I kept saying day 41, they need to do something. but
Mm-hmm.
but that was a prime opportunity to reduce the government, and nobody mentioned it. They just let it ride. So you're asking me who they are. I don't know who they are. I don't know who they are at all.
Yeah, it's wild. It seems like there's some principal people that left. I think the Dave Smiths of the world, some people who supported Trump for various reasons, they apologized. They said, "I'm sorry, I made a mistake. I want him impeached, removed." And there's some people. I think Epstein is a big bright line for some people. They said like, "This is too much. We can't follow you here. This is absolutely beyond the pale. We're out of here." I've seen a bunch of that, but there certainly seems to still be some support, and it appears to be like literally anything he can do anything, and they're going to defend it regardless. It's a wild thing to observe.
I know this isn't the government, but I'll use this as an example. I'll use me as an example. My husband had phenomenal doctors and people that worked with him for a very long time. So I had this belief in the medical system that was absolutely, I thought they walked on water. It saved his life. I don't know how many times. I couldn't even tell you. And so they were kind of like up on a pedestal to me. Okay. And in my heart and in my soul, I loved them all. It didn't matter if they were nasty to me at the hospital or not. I loved them all. Um, and when COVID came around and I saw what was going on and what was happening with COVID, and there was this whole other side of the medical field that I had not seen before.
Mm.
I had, because he had such a great team. So I never saw any of that before. And it literally brought me to my knees. I lost my son during COVID, and for nefarious reasons, to say the extreme least. So I totally was I was broke. I was broken because I did not believe that the medical system was like that. And a lot of people are going through that same thing kind of with the government right now. So for them to say, I fought and fought. No, man, the doctors are good. You can't think that. No, no, you can't think that. The nurses are great. No, they're not. No, they're not all great and they're not all good. And there was a lot of stuff bad happening, a lot. And um, so, like I said, it crushed me, literally. And people are going through that right now. The MAGA, what you call MAGA people who are conservative in their mind, they say they want smaller government. They say they want, lower no taxes. They say they want all of these things, but they're having to deal with that. They're just now starting to see that neither party is going to play along with them at all. And it's when you get crushed like that and you start to realize that you've been misled and believe in these things and you can't believe in it anymore, it's hard on people. So I try to remember that.
Yeah, it seems to be a crisis with our institutions, and it's not just political. It's, like you said, it's medical. It's academia, right? So there's a lot of these, Harvard, MIT, these bastions of what used to be really respected, halls of the elite thinkers of the world. It's all bullshit. Like everybody is just waking up to the fact that it's all bought and paid for. Jeffrey Epstein had a fucking key card to Harvard. He was in with all the big wigs over there, Larry Summers, and the whole thing is corrupt. And that's a painful realization for people. I think growing up and like in our era, back before the internet type of stuff, we had ABC, CBS, NBC. We had the exact same news stories coming down the pipe. We had the CIA sort of running operations as far as mass propaganda. And, for all of the detriments associated with that, there was something stabilizing about it, I think. I think you could at least believe in your institutions, even if they were completely full of shit. I think that might be one of the things where the internet, for all of its positives, might have a negative impact here, is that we got information flying around everywhere and everyone's just waking up. Like the scales have fallen from our eyes and we're like, oh, everybody's full of shit. All of our institutions are broken. So like, what now?
I have a very good friend by the name of Free who constantly says and taught me to say, if the government's involved, it sucks. Okay.
That is a truism. I don't think that you could argue with that in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, that's just one of the little things that he taught. And my experience in education also taught me that. I saw the damage being done up close and personal. Have a lot of shame for I wanted to leave for a long time before I left. Um, I saw a lot. I saw a lot of kids being hurt. I saw a lot of
Hurt
families
how?
being
Sorry, hurt how?
okay. So in the school system, there's these mass numbers of rules that go all the way up to the federal government. As a matter of fact, the federal government controls the school system, even in your local county, because of the almighty dollar.
Right, right.
But not to get into all of that. So everything the school system does is based on that dollar. Okay, how many kids are sitting in a seat? That's a big deal. Okay, that's how they get their money. How many kids are in a seat? Like, do you have 30 kids in a seat? Do you have? I mean, you're going to get more money if you have 30 kids in a seat. It's all based on the dollar. As much as people like to say that it's not, the truth is, push comes to shove, that's what it is. I know because it's what I did. Okay. Um, the other thing I did at school, only because it fell in my lap, was work with troubled kids. I have always been, as long as I've been me, uh, able to work with troubled kids. And I'm talking some really bad kids. One that shot a man in the face 5 times.
Oof.
Uh, because he thought he kidnapped his cousin. anyway. So I'm talking bad kids. I'm not talking about, they're not bad kids. That um, kids that were sold by their uncle and their father for since they were 6 years old. I worked with them. I worked with kids that when I finally left, and this is I don't even know if I've ever even said this story out loud or not, but right before I left, a kid I worked with for about 2 months to get him to graduate, I had a meeting with him and his dad on a Friday afternoon, 2-hour meeting to get him to graduate. I helped a lot of kids graduate. I specialized in that. Uh, Kids that were far behind and not going to make it. And then uh, Saturday, that same young man went to a party and had a sexual encounter with another male after he got drunk and stuff. And the other male threatened to put it online and spread it
Mm,
around the school. And he killed himself on Sunday afternoon, hung himself in his parents' barn. I quit
dear God.
I finally retired about 2 weeks after that because I just saw so much damage with kids. Working with the hardcore kids as much as I did, um, my heart stayed broke a lot. Having to register kids into school that were known felons, known rapists, and you have to register them in school anyway, knowing they're going to do it again. A 16-year-old male can be a serial rapist, just so people out there know. And they just move them from county to county. You can't keep a kid out of school. It's it finally just got to me, and that was like the last one. That was it. So it's I loved what I did at the school. I loved working with the kids. I loved working on the safety commission with the state and the county after the Parkland shooting. I loved a lot of the different projects and things that I worked on, but it's and I loved helping the kids more than anything. And it just got to it was breaking my heart more than I was able to help, I guess is the right way to put it.
Yeah, it's got to feel paralyzing, right? Because you're
It
trying to
does.
help, and especially like I know I was one of those troubled kids. You know, I came from a horribly abusive family, and so I kind of saw it from that perspective. And I was one of the good ones, I think. Like I wasn't a troublemaker or anything. I was just a kid that was kind of fucked up. But I know what type of kid is possible, and I think there's an endless stream of them that come through those public schools. You're seeing that there's poverty and addiction and abuse and all, and it's just like it's never ending. If you have a big heart and you're trying to help out, like you might be able to reach one or two, but like there's like 95% is just tragic, right?
It is. I feel very blessed that I was able to help a lot of kids that were in very bad situations. Either their abusers were arrested. I broke a couple of laws. I went around a few people's behind people's backs and did some things I wasn't supposed to do because of confidentiality and stuff like that. But I always put the kid first. Most of the kids that I helped are still friends of mine um, to this day. And, they were homeless or they were abused. The two girls that were sold by their father and their uncle, they're doing great. Uh, they have children of their own now, and they're doing okay. They're doing all right. Uh, some kids ended up in prison, but they're okay. My deal was you shook my hand. If you came in my office and cut a deal with me and shook my hand, that was it. You were my kid, and everybody in the school knew it. So you didn't get away with you couldn't get away with anything. You couldn't leave the bathroom you couldn't ask for permission to go to the bathroom without me knowing it. But and they needed that. They needed that in a big way. I was the one that would leave my work and go bang on the bathroom door and say, "Get your ass out of there and stop smoking weed in the bathroom." I wasn't the one that would go rat them out, but I was the one who would go up there, almost like a mom and snatch their head.
A little bit of tough love from Terry.
Yeah, that's basically what it was. And all the support they could ever want or need, including I adopted one. I paid for a lot of stuff for a long time.
Well, that's awesome. That's not the typical experience, I think. I think I see a lot of, at least let's talk about the schools my kids went to. I won't extrapolate further, but the ones that I saw, it was like 95% of the teachers were terrible, and there was like 5% were amazing. And it was just that ratio just seemed to persist from school to school to school that we went to, whether it was elementary or middle or high school. It seemed like there was a lot of people there to be in the union, take the paycheck, phone it in, not really care. And then there was like this small minority that really super cared about the kids, and it seemed like they were the ones that got a little bit of pressure to be pushed out. Like I saw a lot of the great ones end up getting pushed out. I don't know if it was because they made the other ones look bad, or whether just they don't like having that sort of contrast around. But there was something there. These people did not stay long. They really tried to get rid of these folks in the systems that I was a part of.
What was different for me, I think I do know some very good teachers that cared. They weren't just there for the paycheck. They went above and beyond constantly, whether it was after school tutoring for free or they were always trying to help kids. But you're right. The vast majority is just there for the paycheck, the summers off, things like that. I was a year-round employee, so I didn't have that option. But that they the difference with me was that I did not have a teaching degree and I did not have a counselor's degree. Okay, so I wasn't legally bound. I couldn't lose my license or anything like I could lose my job, but jobs are jobs. I could get another job. I had enough experience to do that. So I really wasn't worried about that. I was worried about the kids. So I um I could handle the kids in a different way. And I'll just say this, if they came in my office yelling and screaming about a teacher or having one of their fits, I could just say, sit down and shut the F up. You know, don't, go rat me out for cussing at you, you poor baby, you. But sit down and shut the F up, okay? And nobody else could really do that. And I think a lot of times the kids you're dealing with, that's what they understand. That's what they hear at home. That's what they know means something. Not, I'm sorry you're having a bad day, honey. Let me run up to the Publix and buy some Pampers, okay? No, that's not what they understand. They understand shit, sit down and shut up, right? That's what they know.
They want somebody to keep it real for them.
Yeah, and that's why they were attracted to me. And the reason I could do it was because I didn't have all of the licenses to do that, and I kept it that way. There was not a chance in hell I was ever going to get a license to do anything in the school system. No. Mm-mm. And I coached cheerleading for 20 plus years, so I knew a lot of kids, um, and worked with the NCAA and got a lot of kids in school. So I'm proud of what I did in the school system.
That's awesome. There's a lot of people that shouldn't be proud for what they've done in the public school system. So very very happy to see the good ones. Really celebrate those folks because boy, you don't really have a choice as a kid. You're forced by law to go to these schools. They're really not there for kids at any level, and especially kids that got problems. Like oh boy, good luck for you. You unless you find somebody like a Teri, somebody who's actually out there trying to care, you're in for a tough time. I've seen it way too many times. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
So
I appreciate that.
so I want to shift gears, Teri.
Sure.
I really want you to tell me where I'm wrong. So as you know, I'm an
Oh
anarchist. I
God.
don't pull the
You
Jacob Winograd thing, but I am, and I cannot for the life of me suss out why the hell we need a government. And so I legitimately want to be corrected if I'm missing something, if I've got something wrong, because I don't think I'm the smartest guy in the world. But I just after a lot of thinking about it, I'm talking decades of thinking about this. I'm like everything the freeze thing, everything they touch sucks. It's
it
terrible.
does.
Like there's nothing they can do other than murdering people and spying on us that they're any good at. Like why do we need them?
I would say my answer to that really doesn't have much to do with the government. And I know that's going to surprise you a little bit. But my answer to that is because I don't think society is ready for it. I think that it is a great dream. And I would love to see people be able to work together in small groups and small areas. And actually, I would work towards doing that. Um, in many, many ways. I love local. I think it's the best thing and the best way to go. I I just don't think that society today is capable of handling what no government would do. I don't think they're capable of like working together. I don't think they're capable of being nonviolent. I don't think they're capable of not stealing from somebody else to get what they want. I think that it's something that has to be worked on both on the reduction of government and increasing society responsibility at the same time. So I don't look at it from just one side. I look at it from two sides. So that's why I'm a little bit different. But do I think it would be awesome to just keep it local? Absolutely. Absolutely. That would be great. But I don't see that happening anytime soon. I don't. Do you think society can handle it? Do the people
Well,
you meet and run into every day and see online talking all of this stuff don't even know that Congress voted to just spend another 900 or $1 trillion on they don't know, they don't care. So how do you get those people to be involved? Society can't handle it right now. That's me.
I totally get your point, and I say this constantly. You'll probably find 1,000 times in my podcast where I sort of point out the reason I think people don't like liberty is because it comes with responsibility on the other side of the coin.
Correct.
Right. And
Correct.
so I get your point. So, and I also agree. I think today people want free stuff. People want to be taken care of. People want to point to a politician as the source of all of their problems, right? And not take responsibility for their lives. Like I get it. That's a default state for human beings, and we've been fed this pablum. We've been given a much higher standard of living in the United States than we deserve by virtue of being able to export our inflation and all this sort of crazy shit. We've been living above our means. We've been borrowing on the credit card, and we're comfortable. Everybody's comfortable. We can send $2 billion to fake Somali schools in Minnesota. Nobody even noticed. It was just like, well, we didn't even notice. That's how good we've had it. And so I get your point that people wouldn't like it. Do I think they could adjust to it? Yeah. The reason why is because at the end of the day, the government doesn't do anything for us really, right? So you have a couple of things. You have, protection of person and property, policing, right? Today we have these giant drug wars and we have laws against everything and they're just out there and there's no duty to protect. The police officers literally, the Supreme Court has ruled, doesn't have a duty to protect you. So government police suck. They're way expensive. They just murder people indiscriminately. And like, hey, we could actually, because I mean, human beings today, they procure services like cell phones and home internet service and their utilities. They pay a private company for the things that they need. I don't see any reason why they can't pay for policing. And I don't see why we can't have competition in policing. You can have a firm ABC and firm 123, and they fight with each other and they advertise online of why they're better and they provide cheaper, better services over time. And they incorporate technology and how they surveil you and your family. And you might agree to some people might agree to like massive surveillance as long as you keep my family safe, like, you have these options, right? And I think that if you just took the blanket thing of government away and said, okay, now you have to procure a service, you have to buy from somebody in the market, I think it would just be it's like a vacuum. It's like profit-seeking capitalists would swoop in and say, hey, I want to provide you the best service, and they'd fight with each other over it. So I don't think it's necessarily people would have to take so much personal responsibility. You just have to buy more services. And then you have the courts, right? Because you have to figure out contract law and how do you hold people accountable when they break their word. And like, I don't think that's very complicated. I mean, we have blockchain right now. You have smart contracts. There's all this technology, being an engineer, like I see the future, like so clearly how easy it could be. And they would just be given to people. It's like, okay, here you go, buy this service and we can work things out. We handle insurance company stuff right now. If like you and I have Geico and you've got Progressive and we get into an accident, guess what? The insurance companies figure it out. It wouldn't be that difficult to solve most of the major problems because other than that, what is there, Terry? Like the government's providing it. I mean, schooling, like, okay, cool. Like pay for your schooling. Like it would be insanely cheap if you had free market providers. You're not just having to pay for the public schools and on top of it, pay for a private school. If everything was a private school, the way market is, it would be cheap. It would be cheap and high quality. Like and then you like now tell people sending the government 40% of your income or 50% of your income. It's like, I think from a selfish perspective, people will be like, oh, I could make that trade. Like if I just didn't have to give away all my money and I would have to procure a couple of services, it seems to me like it's a no brainer. But that's just that's my autistic brain, the way I sort of suss it out.
I'm going to start rocking. That's my autistic brain.
Yeah, we
Okay.
get a little
So,
helmet put on and
all right. So, I would come back and say, did you really just hear yourself? Because although I, you know me, Brent, I'm going to lay it out there. Okay.
that's why I brought
Oh,
you on, Terry. Tell me I'm wrong.
all right. I'm not going to say you're wrong. Uh, because that I'm not going to say you're wrong. I'm going to disagree with you, but I'm not going to say you're wrong. It because you very well could be correct. But the thing is you were talking about responsibility, and people could talk about the contracts, and you do realize that we live in the United States of America, where like 40% of adults can't read, right? You do realize that where kids, and adults, college kids that would be making those decisions, they can't do basic math. All right. So to me, what you're saying for you is absolutely awesome. Could you figure all those things out? Absolutely. Could I in New York second? So I'm good with me and you doing that, Brent. If you want to go move off somewhere, and we know a few other people that could do that real easily and set up the whole thing and be done in 5 minutes, right? But that's not the country we live in. That is not the country we live in. They're irresponsible, they're uneducated, they have no idea what they would be getting into. Doing a contract with somebody for a service, what the hell is that? And what happens if the contract breaks? Don't you just go down and just pay your bill? What do you mean I have to actually read the contract? How many people every day sign or go into business with somebody they know nothing about? You want them to take 5 minutes to read something they don't know how to read and won't take
Well,
the
they
time to
don't read
read
it
it? I mean,
now. I mean,
they
honestly,
don't.
Terry,
They're
like
not
they
going to
sign up
read
for
it.
a cell service and that's a contract. They don't read that either. The terms and conditions, people just
Oh
click
no,
yes.
not this girl. I don't have a contract. Hell no. But that's what I'm saying. We're not that country. We're not that country. Our kids and the adults are uneducated, and they're not going to take the time. It's too easy. It's too easy, and they're going to take the easy road every single time until they see it work up close and personal. And that's the only way I think it's ever going to happen. And you and I will probably disagree on this forever. But I think the place to start is the education system, because I
Yeah,
went
but they're
back.
not going to let you touch the education system, Terry.
Yes,
That's where
they
they
will.
That's where they indoctrinate people from day one. That's where pledge allegiance to the flag, that is their bread and butter, is making sure everyone is indoctrinated sufficiently. You know,
Well, just so you know, that's not necessarily, you don't have to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance anymore in the state of Florida.
that's the
Okay.
whole nation. Yeah, that's the
Okay.
Supreme Court's rule in that
Right.
nationwide. Yeah,
Yep. You don't have to, the school I worked at did a moment of silence for the kids who wanted to pray could, the kids who didn't have to. Okay. So, the only way to get that to change is to bring it local. Okay. And because the parents, a lot of parents want, hold on, a lot of parents want the actual education system raising their kids. So
for sure.
yeah, that's what they want. So it's a battle. And it's still, that goes back to society and the family. It's a battle, but until they actually see it happen and work and work well, they're not going to change what they do. They're just not. It's too easy, and they're going to take the easy road because they're human beings and they've been taught to do that their whole life. Maybe a couple of generations down we'll get there, but it won't be us. Sorry,
Maybe.
Brent.
No. Okay, let me back up, Terry. So the thing I don't understand is that we already do what I'm talking about for 90% of our lives, right? We have leases when we sign for an apartment. We have contracts for everything already anyway. These people, I get it. There's some not so smart people, and there's some very irresponsible people, right? But this is the way the rest of our life works. Why not the other 5% or whatever that it would take to have a stateless society? Like, what is it about those things in particular that somebody's not smart enough or capable enough of signing a contract to procure those services? Like, that doesn't compute to me.
If they have to pick between three different services, let's say they're doing, we'll do policing again, and you're talking about policing in a small town. Let's say we'll take it as far down as we can, as in a small town, and you have a lot of people that will disagree on which services would be better, right? You see society coming together and being able to do that. I see society as not being able to do that at this point. And I've been like that for 2 years. I still don't. I would love to see it happen, and I would love to see somebody take a small town and do exactly that, which has happened. It's happened a few times in the world and throughout history. But it's not an easy task, and people have to really work together. And I don't see people working together because people are so determined that, they have to have somebody take care of them. And
That's a real
I,
problem.
yeah, it's like, why do I have to make this decision? I'll let Brent make this decision for me. Okay, so you're the government, Brent. So we're going to let Brent make this decision for me because I don't want to mess with that. My kids got football practice and I have two jobs. Forget it. Not doing it. And that we're still too much into that. That's where I see the problem. It's like it's too easy. Brent will do it for me. I know he will because he knows which company, and
Well,
I
you
just
don't
don't.
have to pick a company either. There's nothing saying you have to procure a
Yeah,
service. Like, if you don't want to have a cell phone, don't have a cell phone. You don't want to have a company protecting your property, do it yourself, right? You
and
want to
then
have you want to have responsibility for your property, take care of it yourself. Fine, do that. I think most people would probably choose to have somebody assist with that because shooting people and tackling them and whoever is trying to break into your property, like, that's something that most people would rather not do or maybe aren't physically capable of doing. But I don't think
I
there's
would really, I would really rather not shoot somebody.
Same. Like, I don't really want
I,
to have to do that, but I don't think that there's anything forcing anyone to. That's what the great thing I love. Michael Malice's famous quote, which is like, "Anarchy is not a location; it's a relationship."
it is.
It doesn't have to be the whole town going one way or the other.
No,
It's like
it
if
doesn't.
you
It can be in a community. It could be in a small community like I live in. It could be a lot of different things. I just don't. I think it has to go in steps, and I think it has to be done with people involved locally, even if it's just say 10 people in a town that are doing it. And I read a story about it's called the Red Schoolhouse, and it's a true place. It's actually in the United States, and they did it by example because a couple of parents got aggravated because they wouldn't fix a broken window. Okay, so they did a little fundraiser, did some baked goods, and they replaced the window. And it went down to something that simple. People who bought the cupcakes and the cookies and the homemade breads and stuff said, "Oh, yeah, we'll help replace that window." They replaced the window. The next thing you knew, they were putting in a new pavement. The next thing you knew, they were putting on a new roof. And they actually built their own little community school. Okay, repaired it. They started paying the teacher with their little sales and donations. But and then now that's grown into the rest of the community with fixing the roads and stuff like that. Who's going to fix the pothole, right? So who's going to fix the broken window at the school in this case? So it can work and it works great, but not without an example right in front of your face. So localism is the key. Teaching people at a local level to do things is the key, and that's the only way. It's got to be from the bottom up, as Free says. It cannot be from the top down. I am an advocate of going after the government from every direction as if I was doing a war battlefield. And there's mountains over here and there's an ocean over there, and I need a navy to come in this way and need to the IRS is selling. I'm sorry. I started to say something there. I better not. All right. So, it's like that's what I mean. I think when they see it happen, it'll grow like crazy. But until then, it's not going to.
The problem I have with that is the Lysander Spooner argument, which is
Oh, Spooner.
I love Spooner. So he's like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and compete with the government. I'm going to deliver mail faster and cheaper and better. I'm going to show you there's a better way to do this. And it's the free market. And what did they do? The government made his shit illegal as hell, made it so that the Postal Service is the only game in town. They excluded any sort of competition. And so I see that with government. Anytime that you would want to, like a market actor would want to bring something to bear to show you, demonstrate, there's a better way. Here we are. I'm going to show this to you. They're like, no, you don't. That's illegal. That's we're going to throw you in jail if you decide to do that. And that's where I don't see the incrementalism working. They're not going to allow it.
That's where the activist comes in. That's where you have to become the activist and not the planner or the person who helps teach people. You have to then move to the activist and say, okay, arrest me because we're going to keep doing this. There comes a point when you're going to have to do that. And people will either support it or they won't. But we're in a war. This is not a short-term fix or anything like that. Our government is 100% completely out of control, and they're out of control. We are completely controlled. So, that's the only way to break out of that is to break free of the control. It's like being in an abusive relationship now, right? So you have to break free. And when you break free from an abusive relationship, you just don't run off and everything's okay all of a sudden. It's done in increments, you know, and you drag your kids with you and you say, okay, now we're gonna find a new job, and then we're gonna find a place to live, and then we're gonna do this. And it's kind of like the same thing. We're so abused right now. We're so used to being abused right now that it's commonplace. It's like, oh, okay, there we go. There's the big bad bully coming home, had a bad day at work, and it's going to mess with us some more today, right? Same thing. It's the same thing. And it's going to take the entire nation to fight back on that. Not just, it's going to, people are going to have to pop up in every state in this country and say, no freaking more. What's that going to take? I mean, after COVID, really? What is that going to take? Probably a
Uh,
complete collapse. I
and
would
I
say a complete collapse.
I have to agree with you, and that's what scares me, right? Because I've been a
Yeah.
person that believes with every fiber of my being, incrementalism is going to work. I've seen the limited government conservatives say we're just going to roll the government back. It's like no, you don't. It gets bigger and worse every single day, every second, every year. It's not going backwards. It's not going in reverse, and the collapse is coming, as we mentioned. Like this whole house of cards is going to come down. What scares me is a failed nation state. Every time in history, there's been an unintentional, just the government, like an empire collapses and you're just left sitting in the ashes. Like that is when the worst of humanity comes out. All the arguments against anarchy is, oh, human nature, you just can't trust people. Human beings are terrible. It's like, let me tell you something. Like, you want to see human beings acting terribly? Look at a failed nation state. Look at Somalia after their government collapse. It's brutal. It's terrible. It's awful. And the worst in people comes out. I would rather try to do this intentionally, make the arguments for liberty and free markets. And so maybe we could convince people to try this on their own, but that doesn't seem to be landing very well. The whole country seems to have Stockholm syndrome. We're just watching this happen. Everyone will
It's like a
admit,
battered wife. It's
yeah,
like a battered wife.
it
Yeah.
is. You'll tacitly admit to all your friends, like, yeah, my side sucks. The Democrats really fucking suck, but I'm going to keep voting for them anyway because they're better than those Republican guys. And the
Yeah.
Republicans will say the same thing. And everyone's like,
I
this all sucks, but we're not going to touch it. We're not going to change anything. We'll actually, if like as an anarchist, there's no more visceral hatred have I seen than from people that challenge the system generally. Like, hey, maybe we shouldn't have a government at all, and then like both sides will come at you both barrels. It is it's quite a wild thing to observe.
Where'd you go? Yeah,
You,
it
you
is.
hear me?
And like I said, yeah, I can hear you. Like I said, I don't disagree with you. I just think that I think our choices are very limited. And if I have to choose between the complete collapse, like we're talking about now, personally, I think that's probably what it's going to take to wake people up. And I hate to say that. I hate to even think that actually. But the truth is that I'm still gonna hope that I can't help myself. I'm a cheerleader. I've been one my whole life. I can't, I've cheered everybody on. So I can't stop being who I am. I won't stop being who I am. I am gonna cheer for let's show some people how this can work and you know and hope and pray for the best, and then and hope and pray that we don't have to have the collapse for it to work. If it does, I'm in trouble. If we have a complete collapse, I'm in trouble. You know, I I
We
am
all
alone.
are.
Yeah, I am alone. You know, I am in trouble, and I know that. So it's not a place I want to go. But if we go there, I will do anything and everything I can. Somebody said, Terry, if we go into a collapse, what are you going to do? And I said, I don't know. I would have to come up with something to trade, right? Because that's what basically happens. And I'm not cooking anymore. I don't care what anybody says. I'm not making homemade bread and shit anymore. I'm not doing it. I'm not, I refuse. I could if I had to. I'll put it that way. But, I said, I don't know, maybe I'll make blankets or something. I do a whole lot of different crafts, a ton of different crafts. So, I could do that, I guess. But that's what people are going to have to do is come up with things like that. And they don't even know it. They don't even know it. And that's what scares me the most.
And they should. We just went through COVID. To just think of how quickly the supply chain collapsed in COVID.
Oh,
Remember that?
yeah. Oh, dude.
It was like 2 weeks, and everything was in a shortage. Now,
It
can you
wasn't even,
imagine?
I don't even think it was 2 weeks, Brent. It was instant panic. It was instantaneous. It was absolute insanity. You want me to tell you a funny story? I went to the
Please,
store to get toilet paper, okay, of all things, right? So I was standing there, and there was this man there. He's probably every bit of 85 years old. He could barely walk. And there were people lined up fighting and arguing and carrying on over toilet paper. And I looked up at him. I said, can you believe we're even seeing this mess? And he said, apparently none of them ever had to use a corn cob for wiping their ass. And I just started laughing and I said, do people not realize you can wash rags? I don't understand.
well, and then it was weird too because you'd see people hoarding this stuff because there'd be a shortage, and then everyone's like, "I'm going to buy more," and then all of a sudden, people have like a pyramid mountain of toilet paper in their garage. I'm like, "What are you guys even doing? It doesn't make any sense."
No, and you know what? That's the sad thing. It just showed how fast people became selfish.
Yes,
100% about themselves. I understand people if they have kids on certain things, uh, but I personally live in a community that work together through those things as far as food and stuff. We made a place in the community center and had stuff available for people and things like that. So, it's and I was a big part of that. But actually, I was when I was buying toilet paper, it wasn't even for me. But it was it it just shows you how fast that happens. Hoarding food, toilet paper, and everything. So I know people to this day that have pantries and stuff like that that are just full of out of fear of what might happen. We can't have 2 cans of chicken noodle soup. We have to have 14 cans of chicken noodle soup just in case. It's they're still like that. They're still doing it. So just multiply that by 100 times, and that's what it'll be like.
and now imagine
No,
the policing that you rely upon. It's gone. Like the whole thing's collapsed. There's nobody keeping the peace. Imagine how much worse people would have been in that situation if there were no accountability, there was no enforcement. It was just the collapsed nation state, collapsed supply chains. Like I think about this a lot, and that's not a world I want to live in at all.
no, well, it's not a world I want to live in either. I can assure you of that. I will be the first to admit I don't mind being spoiled. Okay, I don't mind it a bit. I don't mind. I see other countries where they have to stand in line to get bread. I'm sorry. I kind of like the fact that I live in a country where I can go to the store, or actually, I can just order it online and have it delivered. But we have it so made, and we're so spoiled as a nation. The thought of not having those things, a lot of people can't even fathom that happening. And
You know who
it's
can't
scary.
fathom it is these fucking kids. These kids, these
Oh,
socialist kids. They're just like
oh, stop.
shitting on.
Come
They're
on.
shitting. They're
Uh,
shitting on capitalism 24/7, and like this is a miracle, guys. Like you
hey,
don't know what it's like to suffer. You don't know. I mean, you have these made up gender disorders in your head, and you're like, I'm so oppressed. The world is so awful, and it's like you have affluenza. You have so much based off of every human being who's ever existed in the entire world. You are at the pinnacle, the point 0.0000 whatever top percent of anyone who's ever lived as a human being on the planet, and you're complaining about this beautiful life where you have abundance and you have things delivered. Like that old joke is, like in the United States, the bread waits on you, right?
yeah.
Instead of the bread lines, it's the opposite way. Like we've got this miracle of capitalism that is provided such an increase in the standards of living, and decrease in communicable diseases and increase in health span, like all these things, and everyone's complaining. These kids are sitting there complaining nonstop. I'm like, guys, you have no idea what hardship is, and those are the people I really worry about when things go south. Like this
Yeah.
younger generation right now, they are in trouble.
I'm sorry. You you're cracking me up. It, I think every generation says that. I've done a lot of research on that. Every generation, they're kids, okay? They don't know squat, and they won't for a very long time. So, that until they have to go out there and get beat up a little bit and stuff like that, and actually make some hardcore choices. That's exactly what they're going to be is kids. So you got to give them a break there, Brent. They're so they're going to depend on you and your generation to help them understand and overcome the challenges that they're going to face. Okay, that's the article. My first award winning op-ed was an article that they still use to this day, and it's called Generation to Generation. Okay, and it's actually a story about 9/11 and how each generation reacted and everything. Like I told you I went into a panic. Well, I called my mom on the phone and the different generation, and she said, "Terry, honey, just calm down. This is the United States. Everything's going to be all right. You don't need to get upset." I said, "The buildings are falling," you know. And I'm banging on my son's door saying, get up, we're at war, we're at war." I mean, and he's like, "What?" he was a teenager at the time, probably been out all night partying. But anyway, it was like, it was three different generations in my one little world, and every single generation reacted differently. And that's what I wrote about. But it was the older generation who said, calm down. That's what they're going to need you guys for. They're kids. Yeah, they're stupid. Yeah, they don't realize how good they have it. Did you? Well,
I
you
didn't
said
have
you
it
had it
good
rough.
though. I
I
had it
know.
real rough, so
Yeah. Okay, so you know how to overcome then, right? You
for
could help
sure.
them. You could help them a great deal. Things I went through in my life helped me help kids. So that's what we do. We pass it on. So you're just gonna have to suck it up and help those silly kids.
Yeah, it's that cycle they always talk about the good times and the hard men, and like that. Like we're coming around to that time where I think these soft people are going to have to get hard very quickly. It's going to be a rude awakening, and maybe that's just a cycle of life. Whatever. Like I guess we'll watch it play out.
I don't know. I don't know. I might not watch this. I think I might not. I'll be a non-participant this time.
Boy, that's what we're trying to do. Honestly, like we are so focused on getting the off-grid property and then trying to become completely self-sufficient, have no utilities, like endless water, stockpiles of food, because I think it is going to be bad. And also, I think it's important for us to be away from people because I think the cities are going to be trouble. Like when things, the supply chains go disrupted, like we talked about, and people are desperate for their next meal, they're going to start shooting people and they're going to start breaking into houses and they're going to start
Eh,
just stealing shit.
yes, they are. And you know, that's the scary part of it. And it's going to hurt the poor, the homeless, and a lot of other people a whole lot more than, I'm not well off at all. Um, but I would I would probably lose just about everything, honestly. But that's okay. I've done that before twice. So, that's okay. I would survive it as long as I could. Uh, you going to do what you're going to do and setting everything up and trying to prepare for it. That's a lot of education, a lot of things to learn, canning and freezing meats and stuff like that. There's a whole lot of stuff that you're going to have to learn. And, that's a good thing because you could pass that on, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and also make sure everyone has a safe place to land. My family, like you gathering
Exactly.
place. It's safe. It's away from everybody. It's self sufficient. Like at least bare minimum, your necessities are made, and you're probably not being shot on a daily basis. So that's our ground level of baseline of being okay. We're trying to establish.
And you're very blessed that you can do that. And I highly recommend it. But you got to keep teaching. So when you're out there posting online, keep teaching. I learned how to can pickles today. Don't ask me to can the pickles. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, I think that's
My,
something the Liberty community could do more of is sort of like
yeah,
educational stuff on how to do these basic fundamental things. I know there's some like Sonia Agora, Sonia Fintech.
she's great.
She's awesome. She's got has a whole bunch of videos talking about how to. I mean, she's brutally butchering animals online and doing all this sort of cool stuff. But people need that, and I think there's not a lot of people that are doing it. Everybody in the liberty community, for the most part, is focused on DC. We're yelling at the politicians and we're saying how fucked up stuff is, which is true. But unless you're doing something, unless you're educating people, unless you're trying to get yourself right and
Rich.
help your community learn how to do this, I think you're not doing a bunch of good right now.
Yep. And actually, one of the things I'm really excited about for 2026 for Are You Smarter Than a Politician is Free's actually going to teach. So in the eighth grade in the state of Florida, civics is a required class. So I talked to the teacher and found out what all they learned about, and it's actually a good class. It's a well put together class. She happens to be one of the special good teachers. Free has agreed to do a show for the kids where he teaches about through his questions and running of the show will teach the kids more about liberty. That started
Mm.
out being for one class, and it started to expand into the whole school, and now I've been contacted by high schools who also have a civics requirement as in their senior year if it could be upgraded to a senior level type civics thing. It's something that the kids will like and prepare them for their end of the year exam, and things like that. But it's a prime opportunity for somebody with Freeze knowledge on those issues to get out there and actually feed information into our kids. And my grandson watches the show. I know people might find that funny, but he does watch this show sometimes. And he informed me and his mother on the phone the other day when we were talking about photographs being taken at school and how they steal them and things like that, and
Yeah, yeah.
the data manipulation in the school system. And he said, I don't know what's wrong with you guys. We live in a surveillance state. I thought you knew that. so so I know at least some of them are listening. So that's a great opportunity for Free to get out there. And I'm hoping it works, and then I'm hoping we can expand it outside of the state of Florida at some point, or maybe he can make some videos to send out to the schools or something like that.
Boy, that is really cool. I like that idea. You guys are going out on the road to the libertarian conventions, right? The state libertarian conventions to do the show?
Actually, I'm not traveling. I'm just going to the Florida convention, but Free's
Mm.
going to. I believe Amity's traveling with him most, if not all of the time, most of the time. But yes, uh, Georgia, North Carolina, Florida, Virginia, California, Texas. I think he's working on, well, we just got an invitation to maybe go to another one in Wisconsin. And then, of course, the national in Grand Rapids, Michigan, which will be the grand finale. But yeah, so the show does a lot to try to promote liberty and to get people to think on a different level, and that's really what the goal is. And to really ask themselves, what did the government do for me today? And the answer is going to be nothing. But it's a learning process. I had to learn it. I was nothing like I am now when Free first met me. If you want to know the truth, I still had way more hope than I do now. My
Mm.
hope is dwindling, but I still have hope, not for the government, but for the country as a whole. I do believe in a sovereign nation, and I do believe in the country, and I guess I always will. I just think that it's far past time for us to get the federal government out of our lives and as much of the local government as we possibly can, one
That's
step at a
interesting
time.
that it's interesting that people phrase it that way. I hear this a lot, like I'm losing hope, or this is a black pill thing. Like
No.
I talked to Amity about this a bunch, and I keep telling her it's a white pill moment, right? If you abandon something that doesn't work, that's something that can't work, right? Like that's not a negative, right? I think the negative is believing. It's like Charlie Brown in the football. Like if you believe that Lucy's gonna let you kick that ball, and every time you run and you fall on your ass, like it's like when you wake up and say, look, she's going to pull the football the next time and I'm going to fall on my ass. So I'm not going to run anymore. I'm not going to go try to kick this thing. I'm going to go do something else, whatever doesn't result in me ended up on my ass and being embarrassed. Like that's a white pill for me. And I think more people are getting to that point, but I hate hearing it phrased that way. Like I'm losing hope. This is a black pill
No.
thing. Like I,
I should have worded that differently, probably. I don't want to say it. I don't really want to say it like that because I think you're right. I I learned a lot in the last few years, and that's in the last two specifically. I learned an awful lot, but it took somebody that knew what they were talking about because I'm no dummy, not by a long
definitely
shot.
not.
And so I had to have somebody talk about it that I could respect and that I knew what they were talking about, and that was earned. That I do not give that away. That was earned, and it's kind of what opened my eyes even further because even after COVID, I wanted to believe, and it learning that you can't is not an easy process, and it takes time. So it's I just had a great teacher. That's so I recommend it to everybody. I recommend if he's doing a space or he's on a space, go listen. There's a lot of people that do a lot of talk. He knows his crap, and he can tell you a lot about things and where to research it if you want to take the time to research it. And I love doing research, so I do a lot of that, and it's I recommend it all the time to people. It, and I'm not age specific about it either. I think the younger generation needs to hear more. I'd like to set up a time with the college kids so that the college kids can start coming on the show um, with the youth liberty movement because somebody's going to have to take over someday, and they need to get ready. I'm getting old and tired, so
I don't think you're that old or tired, Terry. You do a great job. I would be very sad if you weren't if we were producing the show anymore. I do want to ask one. We're getting a little short on time, so I want to ask one particular question. How does ethics play into your worldview with respect to politics and liberty and stuff? Like, how important is that component of it?
ethics is
Individual rights and that sort of thing.
I when people ask me, I hate labels. I mean, I think everybody kind of knows that about me. I hate labels. I think it's a complete waste of time. Everybody brings their own history and their own story, and you can't actually put a label on an individual. So we're all different. And I'm going to say that ethics is non-existent in government. So I don't really think of it as and a government issue. What does it mean to me? I believe that ethics is, for me, it's very important. And I can even actually give you an example. I don't believe in promises. This comes from my childhood. I don't want your promise. I don't want your lie. You can't promise me anything because you don't know what's going to happen. So unless you're unless you're God Almighty, you don't make me a promise because that's a waste of your time. I don't expect things from people, which is a difficult task to learn, actually. But I don't expect people to be a certain way. I don't expect a certain response. And that's a hard way to live. And I also believe 100% in commitment. I am a very ethical person. I I have made two commitments in my life, one to my husband and one to the show, and that's it. And that's uh, two commitments that I will keep as long as I possibly can. I don't give myself easily. I don't commit to things easily, and I give it a lot of thought before I do it. A lot of thought. Well, I was really young when I got married, so I might not have put too much thought into that.
You hung in there
I
anyway,
had some big.
though.
It was just. Let me just say, it was nice. It was good. So I just I got married in a what's that song? I got married in a yeah, like really quick.
Little Johnny
So yeah,
Cash.
yeah, very young. So and so but I kept that commitment no matter how bad it got and no matter how much it hurt. And I that's who I am. If I tell you I'm going to do something, the chances are really damn good I'm going to do it. It's I'm a good
Got
bet.
it. So the question was more around like non-aggression, right? So I think
Non-aggression.
yeah, because I think you're right. Like when it comes to government, ethics is out the window. There seems to be two camps. The libertarians typically are like, well, or anarchists are
Oh,
like, look, initiating violence against somebody is always wrong, and we should never do that thing, right? And there's other people that are like, well, yeah, it's evil, but we got to because reasons, right? I fear some utilitarian outcome that makes it okay or justifiable to use violence, and so that's more the nature of my question. Like, do you, and some people don't care. There's some people I talk to, some folks who are kind of like, well, I'm actually an econ nerd, and I'm in the libertarian space because I care about the Federal Reserve and sound money and like economic stuff, and so people are coming at it from different angles. So I was just curious how you thought about that. Like, is this important to you? Is this a core thing for you, or is this kind of like, well, I'm mostly concerned about outcomes that societal outcomes that I would prefer, and ethics in that sense doesn't really matter that much. I'm trying to get get a beat on your perspective.
yeah, I know. Okay, non-aggression principle. I am not an aggressive. Let me change that. I am aggressive in some ways, but I am not a violent person. Um, I, I I go after things aggressively when I'm trying to do things, but I'm not an aggressive person by nature, violently or to attack somebody or anything like that. I feel like that's my choice. I often wonder if I would be able to protect myself because it would involve me hurting someone else if you're going to put it on a personal level. Um, as a matter of fact, I have been in that position and was unable to do that. I'll just say it like that. Um, on the other hand, I believe if you're being attacked for that average normal person and taking it outside of me, um, if somebody's going to attack you or your family, it's game on. And
Yeah, that's self defense though. That's different, right?
yeah,
So when you talk about non
you're
aggression, it's
talking
like
about
initiating violence, right? And this is
no,
where
I
I
I
get
don't
into the
like it. I don't like it.
yes.
Are you talking about like foreign?
I'm talking. No, this is like an argument against government, essentially, which is like you cannot do anything as a government unless you first aggress against somebody, right? No matter what it is. If you want to do
I've
borders, if
heard
you,
you talk on that before. Yeah,
yeah. So
I
that's
think I'm not sure I go all the way as far as you do with that. I think sometimes things are necessary to protect others, and I think I will probably always be that way. I that a lot of that comes from experience in other areas. I'm one of the few people that ever saw the actual real Parkland shooting video, the real ones, because I was on the safety committee for the state, the school shooting in Parkland, and
wow.
yeah. So I actually worked on all of the Florida changes after that. Uh,
Yeah, the police
except
actually stood down on that one, right?
yes, and it's to see what happens when something like that, to see what's possible. Um, it wasn't live, but the live video of it. Um, no, I think that everybody in that school should have been, every adult in that school that wasn't protecting a child in a classroom uh, should have been all over that. But I also think that the people in the school should have had a gun. So there you go.
Yeah, that's a weird thing that
So
we take our most precious commodity in our
yeah,
children and we put them in a gun-free zone, which basically draws a bullseye and says to any bad actor, "Hey, just come on in and do an Uvalde or Parkland style shooting, and oh, maybe the cops will show up and maybe they'll
yeah,
protect the kids at some point." Like that's an insane way to be, in my view.
yeah. I do believe in I don't know. It wouldn't be something I wanted, but if something's happening and you're out like, at a mall or at the school or wherever you are, and something's happening, I would be hoping and praying. It probably wouldn't be me, but I'd be hoping and praying that somebody there had a gun and just took somebody's head right off. And I know that sounds terrible. I
Doesn't sound
know it
terrible at
does,
all to me. It
but
doesn't.
it but it's like, no, I believe that there's a time when you need to become violent when you're protecting yourself or others. A lot of people are indefensible. A lot of kids and women are indefensible. Um, in or people that are older and can't help themselves. And the younger, it's like life. You're supposed to respect your elders and take care of people, and men are like that naturally. And to try to take that from them is, to me, a sin. Um, number one, but number two, as a woman, I want to be able to feel like I can say, I want some strong guy I can stand behind and say, you know, and hope and pray for protection. I don't want to get behind some guy in skinny jeans with the or wearing, that's not where I'm going. I'm going to look for the dude that's a badass. And that's I was protected for a large portion of my marriage. My husband was a Marine. Could kill in 5 seconds or less. He was Special Forces Marines. So he taught me a lot, but I'm not strong enough to do any of that stuff anymore. So you're right. I want a man, and so I think there is a time for violence, and maybe they're not shooting at you, but by God, I want you to get up and shoot back. You know.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree, and I think it's been absolutely demonic watching the villainization of masculine behavior. The
Oh,
protect and provide instinct in men, having that sort of shamed out of this younger generation of kids that are coming up. It's diabolical to me. It's
it is diabolical, and it's something that a lot of people will live to regret. I did a lot of first-time things for women. I was the first director of engineering in the world that was a female. I did a lot of things that were first-timers things for women and stuff like that. But you know what? That's one thing I never lost is I love a good man, and that's a man's a man's a man. That's it's to me that's one of the worst things that's happened. So that and making women feel like it's not okay to be a woman and to maybe want to have kids and raise a family and things like that. I think it goes both ways.
It does, and I feel like the tide's turning. It seems like, for better or for worse, like we've kind of gone through that arc, and people are realizing how insane that is. And I feel like some healthy masculinity is a little bit back in vogue, and I'm very happy to see that. I think this sort of blurring of gender boundaries and everything, and
And I
trying
think
to
women are demanding it in their own way. Women are starting to demand it. No, by God, you're going to take care of me.
not only
Wait,
that, but I'm seeing people online. These ladies complaining. It's like men won't even come up to me and hit on me in a bar anymore, or buy me a drink, or like that. There's just sort of like this fundamental breakdown between the sexes, and it's I think some of it's driven by the apps and everything being chronically online and stuff. But I'm seeing these people melting down online, saying like, "Look, I dressed up, put on my makeup, I went out, I'm at a like these guys are so afraid because the Me Too movement and this sort of masculine or there's this making it toxic masculinity, this sort of like crazy thing that's beating this out of these men, and
Maybe
I
they
think
should get
it's.
a little sign that says, "If you have any balls, you'll buy me a drink."
But I think women don't want that, right? They just want you to do it. They don't
Yeah,
have
they
to
do.
like signal you in. They want to. I mean,
Yeah.
there was this thing when I was coming up. It was like this is the agreement that we had, is that the men, we would just come up to you and we would make the first move, and we would and then the women were the deciders. They might tell you to go fuck off, like you're not acceptable. Like I think the 80% of men are not acceptable to any women, which is a wild statistic. And we knew that you might stick your face in the fan and get rejected, and that was part of the deal of being a guy. And all same thing with like chivalry, opening doors for women and protecting women and children. Like that was a noble thing to do, and it just feels like for that brief moment, the whole world went crazy, and we looked at that as with some sort of disdain and contempt, and it's like, man,
In public, which I don't really. That's not my first choice every day is to go out into the craziness, but and certainly not into any big cities. But the when I go out and a man opens a door for me, like say into the store or whatever, I always say thank you. And you don't know how many men have said to me, "Wow, I have not heard that in so long." And they're shocked, for somebody to say thank you and not get offended because they opened the door. I see that as a form of respect and not as a something to put a female down. They're not opening the door because they don't think I can open the door. That's not.
exactly.
Yeah, they're opening the door because that's what their mother probably taught them to do, is to be respectful to women. That's what I taught my kids. So, I always appreciate it. And the men are always shocked. Every single time they're shocked. I think that's sad.
Well, I hope that
Hey,
changes.
this is Terry. Okay, stand right there. I'll be out in just a minute. You can open the door when I leave too.
That's good. That's a signal that everybody needs. I'm thinking society's starting to heal in that respect, and I will be cheering from the sidelines. All these young men coming up. Hey, open the doors for the ladies. Protect the women. Protect the children. Take your place as a man. It's a good thing. It's a positive thing. Work out, lift, make yourself dangerous, but have it under control, as Jordan Peterson says. It's a good thing to do. 100% advocate for it. Yeah, 100%. So. All right, Terry. Well, we are already over time. I could keep talking to you all night, but my kids, they demand carbonara, so I brought some stuff back from Italy, so I'm going to be making some real Italian carbonara for my kids in a minute, and they're wanting their foods. I'm going to wrap this up. Why don't you tell everybody out there who may not know where to find you online, where to find you?
Well, recommendations are two things: Batts T76 on X, and also you can follow free at Smarter Game Show. We connect back and forth on the thing, and be sure to watch Are You Smarter Than a Politician on Tuesdays and Fridays when we come back after the
Hell
first
yeah.
of the year.
Love that show. I'm 1 for 1 winning that show, and I look forward to coming back at some point. So,
Yeah.
anyway, thank you. It was great talking to you, Terry. Love what you're doing. Love what Free's doing. Keep it up. Really, really enjoy. You're one of my favorite people online. Everybody go follow Terry, and I'll chat with you later, Terry.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Night.